Hello, I'm John Liander, Ankarcrona, a student here at Lund Architecture School, and I'm your host today at ArchFilmLund. And with me today is Ron.
Hi everyone. My name is Ron. Thank you for inviting me here. It's such a pleasure to be amongst you. Thanks.
And you are going to be our guest, and we're going to hold a discussion about your thesis and also your film for this festival. And we're going to also show 2 snippets from that movie during this conversation. So, why don't we just start and begin with talking about your movie? So, first, what is it about? Tell us.
Basically, it's a thesis. Of course, it's within the architecture school of Lund, and I took a sort of different road with my thesis, and decided to make a film out of it. And the film is called Project Bunker, which deals with the situation in Albania during the 80s under the communist regime, which this dictator sort of imposed a totalitarian rule upon its country, and as a means to control the population, he sort of created this bunkerization project, which resulted into building 700,000 bunkers in Albania, which is a very, very, very high number of bunkers.
Do you know how many people per capita, so to say?
So during that time, when they were built, it was like I think 4 people, one bunker for 4 Albanians.
Wow.
Which is quite difficult to just imagine that, and it must be even more difficult to be part of that sort of situation when you think about it. And maybe we can show the first clip and sort of get a glimpse of what is it about.
Then we'll get into a discussion.
Everything's corrupt. Everything's fucked up. Everything's about a buck with shit out of luck. Yeah.
Arritjet madhështore të Shqipërisë dëshmojnë për epërsinë e rendit socialist, për drejtësinë e vijës marksiste e leniniste të partizan, për forcën e pamposhtur të ideve të marksizëm-leninizmit.
Banditi dhe spioni amerikanëve zërësheu, shikoj shikoj, dollarët dhe planit e korrupsionit me të cilat në pajisin amerikan. Populli do të hapë vevet në ide.
Amerikanët s'ka dyshim me nisën Shqipërinë për me bënë një përgatitje e një organizim për me bënë një digital motosin kundrejt pushtetit popullor të Shqipërisë. Unë hika nga Shqipënia për arsye të okupacionit fashist italian.
Tani përse ke në Shqipëri?
Shqipërinë të heshi
për të vendosur fashistët amerikanë.
Për të vendosur fashizmin amerikan. Ta bashin me vdekje me pushkatim. Dënon në Ansulin me vdekje me pushkatim, dënon nga një Malushin me vdekje me pushkatim, dënon Rapusha Gollin me vdekje me pushkatim.
interesting, and I really think it really paints like not only just the picture but also like the emotional atmosphere of the times really well.
Yeah, thank you. That's exactly what this first part of the movie intends really to do, because like the sort of strategy of the whole film is maybe quite straightforward or kind of architectural, which is separated in three parts. It deals with Albania's past, the way of life during the time there, the way that people sort of coped with the situation. And you can even see here, like in that sort of courtroom, that how, in a way, people were forced or were enforced to say things that they really didn't do. And then the second part of the movie deals with the current state, with what's happening right now.
Where we divided it with the past, present, and future.
Exactly, yeah, and the present deals with how bunkers, and the film digs into the bunkers more in the second part, where you actually see those physical remains of that period, and it's quite interesting to see how it reflects the past. You know, the present. It definitely does physically. You can literally see it and feel it.
And this block is about demolishing and tearing down. But the interesting thing I think about the bunkers is that they're kind of in this limbo state in between, not like breaking everyone down, but still not knowing what to do with them.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point, and I think to really capture the maybe theme of this block is constructing and letting to die in a way, or demolishing, is that these bunkers, after the bunkerization project, a huge amount of bunkers were built in Albania, right, 700,000, and then when the regime fell, lots of debunkerization projects started happening in Albania when the Democratic Party took over. They wanted to destroy all the remains of this painful past, because I think that's the most literal way that us as human beings tend to erase our bad memories, to sort of destroy them.
It's a ritual of change to literally destroy the remnants of the past ideology.
And that was not only done by people, it was done by the government. So people who took over then the country, they just didn't want to deal anything with what happened earlier, and that is kind of common and maybe understandable, even though I don't agree that that's the right way to go. But
it's a way of coping mechanism. But should you hide your past, or should you embrace it, so to say?
Yes, and I think maybe the answer to that is sort of to embrace it, because I sort of try to elaborate on that in my film and also in my thesis, that we cannot sort of move on without really dealing with what happened in the past, and unfortunately that doesn't happen only in the Albanian context, that it's a worldwide situation. If we talk about the Nazi Germany, or the architecture of Albert Speer, or how his buildings were demolished and the sort of tear down, just because at that time, right, when the system sort of changed, because that's the first things that we think it's the right thing to do, and we know we can't blame them, right, like the people who were actually part of that and who had that impulsive feeling into destroying things.
And to bring it even more contemporary, you can also see this in maybe even cancel culture if you bring it to the pop scene, whereas you have to kind of erase this person who does not come.
That's a really good point. It really comes out of our sort of profession, right? It's bigger than that. It's something that deals with our the nature of us as human beings, and what we do and how we cope with things. And I think in the Albanian context is such a tremendous sort of situation that there was something that happened in the past, and people, when that system sort of was stopped and a new system started, they wanted to tear down the bunkers, but they couldn't, right? Like, so there's still a lot of bunkers which exist still in Albania, and which is for me even more the fascinating fact about it is that now there is another way that people of Albania are dealing with the bunkers or the government, and that's by painting over the bunkers, by sort of creating, because the current prime minister is an artist, and he considers himself an artist, and he sort of is dealing with the bunkers with the same goal of erasing its meaning, but painting over them, so trying to change what they represent, and maybe to sort of create this a more fun-looking bunker than this typical communist bunker.
Literally to just paint it over, paint the facade in a way.
And if you go to Tirana, which I conducted my study trip in Albania in March, in Tirana I went all over Albania, you could see that present everywhere, not only on the bunkers. It's so colorful. For example, Tirana as a city, the facades of the communist buildings are all painted in colors which look so different, and it looks so
what's the word for it? Juxtaposition, maybe.
It is indeed like that, and it is something that you start questioning it, because what do you do? What do you achieve by painting a facade, right? Even if it's just a facade of a building, or if it's the outer exterior of a bunker, and you sort of start questioning that if that is also the right way to go, and if that is done with the intention of erasing the meaning of the bunkers which they had in the past, then I think still it's not the right thing to do. However, if that is a mean of expressing yourself as what do you feel towards a system, then that is definitely a right way to go with it.
And I can think different people might interpret this, this painting of the bunkers in many different ways.
Yeah, I think so. And I think this, to be honest, this started with this prime minister when he used to be the mayor of Tirana, because he started this idea of painting over things, painting over bunkers and facades. But then I think people personalize it even more, and then they use this as a tool to sort of express themselves, not maybe painting something beautiful, but actually writing graffiti, writing slurs, writing insults, and then just expressing themselves in a very straightforward way of what they wanted to say.
But very still much expression.
Exactly.
Of feeling,
And this I have tried to adopt in my project, and it deals with the third part of the movie, which I talked about, that it deals with the past, present, and the future, and there my sort of motivation into sort of maybe trying to, I don't want to say propose, but just think of a future of this bunker is to sort of take in this graffiti type of interpretation, maybe
seeing how people interact with them now, and maybe see how that can build on them to something else.
I think so, and that could lead to a more productive way of dealing with the bunkers, which I think is quite authentic, because it's what people have done until now, and I think that as my interviews in Albania said, which I've interviewed a lot of people, architects, and also just normal people around the streets. They say that these bunkers were built on people's backs, right? And we should be able to do whatever we want with them, which is their right. So if they want to write slurs, and if they want to write curses and bad words and even nice words, or they should do that.
They should.
I
People
would
should
do that.
do what they feel or want to do.
Yes, exactly. And because I mean, what is even more interesting about this, because when you think about a bunker, and that is typically a bunker is a military object, right? It's designed to protect. Is sort of maybe designed to kind of protect its people, but in Albania, that was never the case. These bunkers were never used for its purpose, which even makes it even more, the whole idea. Exactly, it makes it even more strange that how all these bunkers were built, that they were never used, right? That just tells the intention of the government,
the
of the
intention
regime.
was not to build bunkers, but to make people believe that there was a need for bunkers.
Exactly, and that is exactly what was the main sort of. I mean, it started as a defensive project, right? But then it just derived into building them everywhere with no strategic significance or with no sort of. If you talk now to military people in Albania or people who know about defensive architecture, they say that this doesn't make sense. The amount of money spent, the amount of time, this doesn't make sense. And I try to create a metaphor between the bunker as one bunker and what you see from the bunker and the window of the bunker, which sort of projected this view of Albanians that an enemy is coming and an enemy is about to come, and that is the way that they lived during that time. It was a paranoid state. Everyone was afraid, so he created this xenophobic sort of identity, which is still unfortunately alive now because it's sort of recent. Just 40 years ago this happened.
Yes, you carry things from the past, but I also think if you're talking architecturally, that a bunker is such like a high contrast between what it means to be on the outside and on the inside, right? Because inside you are, an enemy to the one at the outside, talking in a war aspect, and that is maybe can be connected with the feeling of Albanians inside Albania viewing the outside of the world.
I think so. And when you look at look at about a bit of the Albanian history, it's a country that was always sort of oppressed and was under occupation all the time, and they experienced this, and it was sort of easy to trick them, right? If you want to trick them, and unfortunately, Enver Hoxha, the dictator, he did that. He tricked them. But
they had from past experiences reasons to believe that maybe they were going to be attacked.
Of course, and
since they have been.
Yes, and exactly, and I think that I tried sort of, to capture that feeling of an Albanian individual, of how that person was feeling at that time, and how she was afraid, how she felt of being inside of one bunker where you basically sort of forced to go and train. We take just an arm, a gun, or something like that, and you was forced to sort of train, have some basic military knowledge, and then in case something might happen, you would be able to serve. And that is also the reason, which we might show it in a bit in the second clip, that I filmed in Albania in the vertical way, in the vertical camera, is to sort of have this limited view of what you can see, because that was what Albanians were able to see. It was all limited, it was all constructed.
Inside the bunkers, literally,
It was literally inside the bunkers, and that's also what one very respected director of one film in Albania, which is called Colonel Bunker, says that the bunkers are a representation of a very unique Albanian totalitarianism, which is what it sort of projects this view of a possible enemy from the window of the bunker.
Should we watch the second clip now?
I think we should. I think it's time.
I would love school kids to go and have that in the program and go and talk about them. And of course, I never support anyone being nostalgic or anyone being, saying that this was a good move or anything like that. I believe it was such a waste of time and energy and money and lives. And if I could decide, they would not be there. But now, once they're there, let's make some use of them.
See, I think I'd make a perfect leader. I'm very hands-on. And by that I mean my hand's on this big red button that may or may not do something terrible to the moon's gravity. Don't worry, I'll write you a lovely obituary. If all the world's a stage, then I shall play my part. You may say it's cliché, but I say that it's an art. Every deck needs a knave to come and stack the cards. The world may be yours to save, but it's mine to tear apart. You secretly live below my laser-mounted space station. You may need to think it over, but if I get bored of waiting, I'll be beaming tic-tac-toe between the borders of your nations. Want to keep the Swiss plateau and give me world domination.
Very nice, very nice. And as we talked about before showing the movie, you know, capturing that emotion, looking through these quite small rectangles, you really get that sense of being, you know, inside this, you know, large, you know, kind of viewing them from that kind of, you can feel this separation, and like you explained earlier.
Yeah. For example, if on the footage that we saw there of the bunker, it's in Tirana, it's an urban bunker, it's in a city, and so I was able to go inside the bunker and I filmed from inside the bunker, and you can see outside everyone and no one can see you, and you can see every movement, you can hear everyone speak, you can hear every little sound, you can hear the birds, you can hear everything. And it was very spontaneous that these two kids, these two children started playing outside of the bunker, and it just felt so, it felt such an illegal thing to do at the same time, to be there to film that at the same time, and also disconnected from what is happening outside. And it seemed negative, it seemed bad to be there, but I wanted to be there. I think I had
fascinating still.
Exactly, I have like a 40-minute footage of just from that bunker there, just filming people's movements and people, and no one saw me. And that is for me very interesting. It was very captivating to be in that position of such a, you know, so closed and so. It was a perfect metaphor of what this is about. You know?
Yeah. That's very interesting. Yeah, I'm also been very interested with that one-way perception, where you can see them but they cannot see you, like a two-faced mirror, but or what you might call it. You know what? You know, the mirror where you can see through. But, yeah. But I think we could talk about a bit more, you know, personal. Just I wanted to talk to you about like your approach to filmmaking. Was it this the first time you tried this out?
Yes, this is definitely my first time trying this out, and I don't know if you and I have an approach on filmmaking. I think my approach was quite straightforward, maybe kind of ignorant in a way. I didn't really know what am I doing. I got such big help from my supervisor, since this was a thesis within the architecture school, and they were a bit more experienced with filmmaking. So I went in Albania with my phone as the main thing that I had for filming, and one small microphone to interview people, and my notebook, and that's it. That was my approach, to be honest. And it was I was quite skeptical in the beginning if this is the right way to go with the project, and if it's not the right way, if I can film the things that I want to film, if I can be authentic enough. Because it was all about the narrative. It was about to show what I experienced in Albania, and therefore
tell a story.
Exactly, it was all about the story, and it was how to say. I sort of realized that filmmaking is the best media to go with the project while I was in Albania, because it felt that this is the right thing to do and this is the right way to tell this story. Because what
you wanted to tell and show and talk about could best be portrayed with film.
I think so. I think it's such a project because it's so enormous, right? And they're everywhere, and it's really hard to sort of include all the bunkers in one conventional architecture project. and the way, the sort of maybe straightforward way to do it is to really think outside of the box in a way, and really try to include them within the project, not to leave some bunkers out and some no. So having that in the back of my mind, I thought that I should have a strategy where I include everything, and I be as authentic as I can, because what is important is to create a discourse about these bunkers. It's to be able to talk about them. This doesn't happen in Albania enough. People do not sit like we are sitting right now and speak about the bunkers that easy.
And film is also a media that is so accessible for everyone. Not unlike plan drawings that could be quite difficult without having the experience to watch, but a film everyone can project and feel and understand, I think.
I think so too, and I think this would be. I would be very happy if this could maybe, if people in Albania also could see it, and maybe just reflect in a way that I reflected upon these bunkers. Even though I'm not from there, I sort of have a relationship with Albania by visiting Albania when I was a child. So I think it's important for
maybe creating a discussion. But what I want to talking about your personal relationship with Albania. From what I get, been there since you were young, and you've been there throughout your entire time of growing up, and you've had this different way of viewing the bunkers. Like as a child, you maybe might perceive this as a very innocent way. Then getting older, you perceive them as this object. Then you get to understand the history. And what I wanted to ask you was, how did studying architecture change your perspective? What new light did it bring you? How did you understand the bunkers in a new way?
I think that's a really nice question, because that is exactly what happened. I was in Albania while living in Kosovo quite often for summer holidays and so on, and we always used to see the bunkers, and my parents always used to see the bunkers, and my friends and so on, but we never sort of started and questioned them, or started and looking at them in a more analyzing way or in any other way, and studying architecture. It's something that we get taught during our education, that it is important to not only see what is in front of you, but to sort of try to view things in a more holistic way by getting also into the social aspect of architecture. And that was the first thing that came into my mind, rather than the bunkers. It was the social aspect.
The object itself, but how people are relating to it.
That is what makes, I think, the bunkers even more significant. It's their relation to the people and how people feel about them. And therefore, architecture sort of brought those ideas to me, that I shouldn't view the bunker, or shouldn't look at the bunker as just an object or military object, but should see what people relate to it, and how people relate to it, and how it relates to the landscape as well. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it really does. It kinda not. You see a bunker, you say, that's a military object, but is it though? How are people interacting with it? And that is maybe truly how people see it in a way.
It could be even the case that the Albanian bunker, maybe for someone who doesn't really know the history, could be viewed as this military object. This bunker was used many times by soldiers or so on, but that wasn't the case. It was never used. It's just an old object there. Maybe it's not even a bunker now. Maybe it's just a concrete mushroom block.
It could be a blank canvas where you can do almost anything. And I think that's an exciting part about architecture, and also about demolished buildings or unused buildings, that you can either view them as this thing to tear down, or you can view them as this thing to build upon.
I think so.
But thank you so much for being here, Rron. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and it's been a wonderful conversation, I think. And we're going to thank you. And the next movie is Topiascope, which is a real pleasure.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you.